Hi, this is the Sportsocology show, and I'm your host, Bill Knutson. This is my first show, and I'm really glad that you're here joining me for it, being a part of it. Today, I'm going to give you some interesting facts about the Super Bowl that you may not know. I've compiled a list of 48 of them, because it's Super Bowl 48. So I'm going to throw some of them at you today. And also some interesting things that you can bet on. They're called prop bets, if you're so inclined to do that. Some of them are outrageously crazy. Tomorrow, I'm going to do a show with some friends of mine for Super Bowl Sunday. We're going to get in-depth on the matchups, the game itself, maybe a few other topics. But today's not going to be too long. Just wanted to throw some interesting tidbits out about the Super Bowl. So here we go, and a couple of brain teasers too, get you thinking. The Denver Broncos are one of 4 teams that have lost 4 Super Bowls. Do you think you know what the other 3 teams might be that have lost 4 Super Bowls? I'll give you the answer later on in the show. Also, on the other side, the Seattle Seahawks are one of 10 teams that have previously appeared in a Super Bowl but have never won the big game. Can you come up with the other 9 besides the Seahawks? And again, later on in the show, I'll give you those answers that I'll just get you thinking, see how good you are with the trivia, because trivia is a big thing of mine. I actually play on a trivia team, and that's the big reason why I think they have me on the team is I seem to know lots of stuff about sports. My wife will say I'm the smartest guy in the world with the useless information, and she's probably right. So see if you can think of the answers to those 2 questions, and I'll get back to the answers in a few minutes. Let's see. Peyton Manning, he's trying to win his 2nd championship in his brother's home stadium. Now, did you know that Eli Manning won his 2nd championship in Peyton's home stadium back in the days when Peyton was for the Colts? So now Peyton is trying to match what Eli did in his stadium back in the day. Super Bowl Sunday is the 2nd largest consumption of food in the United States. You can probably figure out what the number 1 day is, but that is how massive the Super Bowl is. With the amount of food that's consumed, that's how big a day the Super Bowl actually is. Now here's something that's kind of crazy, and I grew up in the New York area, so when I heard this, I thought it was kind of nuts, but let me know what you think. The safety, Mike Adams for Denver, he's a Paterson, New Jersey resident. And it's approximately 10 miles from Paterson to MetLife Stadium, which is in East Rutherford, New Jersey. And Adams said that if the Broncos win, he's going to leave the stadium and walk the 10 miles to his home in full uniform. So hopefully the police in all of those areas and the people that live in all those areas won't be calling the police saying there's some crazy man walking down the street in a Broncos uniform. It is actually a Denver Broncos, safety Mike Adams, if the Broncos win. So be aware of that if you're up there in the New Jersey area near the stadium. The consumption of food, as I talked about earlier, here's a couple of numbers, or one number on the consumption of food actually. Can you figure out how many chicken wings are going to be consumed tomorrow in this country? I'll let you know that later. Now, I'll let you know that now. I gave you enough to think about earlier. 1.25 billion, that's billion with a B, chicken wings will be consumed just tomorrow. That is an unbelievable number. I couldn't get over that when I heard that. And here's another thing about the Super Bowl. Did you know that there's never been an overtime Super Bowl or a shutout in the Super Bowl? I don't think this is going to be the year for the shutout, especially with Peyton Manning. I find that hard to believe that anybody could shut him out. As great as the Seahawks defense is, the Broncos getting 0 points, I would say that's highly unlikely. But with this great matchup between the Seahawks and the Broncos, I definitely can see an overtime. That would be exciting. I'm ready for that. That would be exciting. I'm a Giants fan. In my home stadium, the first ever overtime Super Bowl, I'm all over it. I'm ready for it. Let it happen. I'm good. Do you have any idea how many footballs are made just for the NFL in a season. I found out over 700,000 footballs are made just for the NFL, not for anything else. Picture college football, high school football, all the older guys like me, young kids just throwing the ball around. 700,000 just for the NFL. 72 footballs are made just for tomorrow's game. 72 balls just for the Super Bowl tomorrow. That's a really, really big number. I was very surprised to hear about that. How many people will be too lazy to cook anything and will want to call for takeout, or especially, places like Papa John's, Domino's, Pizza Hut, whatever pizza place might be delivering in your area? The number is 48 million. 48 million people are going to get either takeout or pizza delivery. So if you own a Papa John's, a Pizza Hut, or Domino's or any other place like that, you better put extra staff on and stay open late, because you're going to be doing a lot of business, which is good for you. All right. How many? Now I mentioned 1.25 billion chicken wings will be consumed just tomorrow for the Super Bowl. And nothing goes better with chicken wings than beer. So can you picture in your mind how many cases of beer will be consumed just tomorrow? Just tomorrow. How many cases of beer will be going with all of those chicken wings? The answer is 50 million cases of beer. 50 million cases of beer to go with 1.25 billion chicken wings just for tomorrow's game. That is an unbelievable number. All right, back to what I left with you before, the brain teasers. Have you thought about the 3 teams besides Denver that have lost 4 Super Bowls? The answer, the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills actually lost 4 straight Super Bowls in the 90s. That will never be accomplished again. There is no way that any team, not that any team will ever get to 4 straight Super Bowls, let alone lose 4 straight. That's never going to happen. So those Buffalo Bills teams of the 90s, they kind of get disrespected. They get dogged out for losing 4 straight. But I kind of look at it the opposite way, that it was an amazing feat just to make it to 4 straight Super Bowls. And I was glad they lost one of them. They lost that classic after the 1990 season to the New York Giants with the kick that went wide right. I thought he was going to make that kick. I was sweating bullets. I thought for sure he was going to make it. Me and my friends were hanging around in like a big huddle, arms around each other's shoulders, hoping that it would miss, and it did. It went wide right. We were very happy. Also the Minnesota Vikings. Back in the 70s, they played in 4 Super Bowls in the 70s and lost all 4 of them. So they've never won a Super Bowl. And believe it or not, the New England Patriots. Now we know in the Tom Brady era that the Patriots have been in 5 Super Bowls and they won 3 of them, but Brady has lost 2, both of them to my New York Giants. Thank you very much, Tom. And they also lost 1 in the 90s to Brett Favre, and they lost 1 to the great 1985 Chicago Bears team. So that's 4 losses for the Patriots. The other question, maybe you figured it out. I figured it out, but it took me a minute. The other 9 teams besides the Seahawks who have been to the Super Bowl but have never won it. Here's the list. The Tennessee Titans, Cincinnati Bengals, San Diego Chargers, Atlanta Falcons, of course the Buffalo Bills and the Minnesota Vikings, like I mentioned, the Arizona Cardinals, the Carolina Panthers, and the Philadelphia Eagles. Those 9 teams, along with the Seattle Seahawks, have been to the Super Bowl at least once and have never won it. So there's the list of all of that. All the interesting facts. Well, it's not all of the interesting facts. I have a list of 48 that I've compiled for, obviously, Super Bowl 48. But tomorrow's show, I'll bring out a lot more information and, like I said, get more in depth with the game and have some other topics and do more things that day. So that'll be better. All right. Now on to the Super Bowl bets and props. So if you're inclined to bet on the game, I've got a few tips for you and a few interesting things that you can bet on if you're so inclined to do that. Now, I grew up in the New York City area, so I'm aware of what the weather is usually like at this time of year. So maybe I have a little edge on somebody that's not familiar. It says, will it snow during the game? And it gives you odds on yes or no. The answer is no. It's going to be about 40 degrees at game time. It's going down to 32, and there's almost no chance of precipitation, period, let alone snow. So if you're inclined to bet on that, I would feel confident in saying no to that. Will the temperature be over or under 28 degrees at game time? As I just said, as of earlier today, the temperature is supposed to be 40 degrees at game time. So obviously they're asking for over or under 28 degrees. The answer is over 28 degrees, and that should be a lock winner if it's supposed to be 40 degrees at game time as of earlier today. So if you're inclined and you have a way to do it, I would bet the over on the temperature being above 28 degrees. Will the power go out during the game? As we all remember, last year, the Superdome in New Orleans, the power went out and they had a big delay during the game. Now, don't you think that everybody at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, they're all aware of that? The governor of New Jersey, obviously Commissioner Roger Goodell, you know that is not going to happen again. Absolutely not. Now, the odds are 2,500 to 1 against it, according to Las Vegas. If you're so inclined to do that, bet that it will not happen. You know, even if you bet $1, you would lose 2,500 if the lights went out at the Super Bowl. I understand that. What are the odds of that, though? The odds of you losing that bet are almost none. I'm just throwing it out there, but it's easy for me to say, you know, to do something, it's not my money. It's easy to spend other people's money, right? I understand that. So let's see what else I have. Let's see. Will Michael Crabtree mention Richard Sherman in a tweet during the Super Bowl from kickoff until the final whistle? I would say no, my opinion. I think Michael Crabtree has better things to do than to waste his time tweeting about, you know, Richard Sherman in the Super Bowl. I really don't think anything like that is going to happen. But again, you know, you do what you want with it. All right, so let's see. What else can I give you? What else can I throw out for you here? Let's see. How many times will the 12th man be mentioned during the show? They have an over-under of 2. Now, obviously, the game is not in Seattle, so I would say that it's minimal, maybe, but it'll be mentioned because the Seahawks are playing. They're going to mention the fact that the 12th man isn't there to help the Seahawks during the game. And, you know, 2, I might go over 2 on that, because I think 3 or 4 times in the coverage of the game it will be mentioned, the 12th man and not being in New Jersey at the game. Let's see. They even have things about Bruno Mars, you know, what will he be wearing on his head at the halftime show? Now, I'm not a Bruno Mars fan. I don't really know anything about him. I'm not really interested in the halftime show. But if you are a fan of his and you're a fan of the halftime show, it wants to know, will he be wearing a fedora, a fur hat, no hat at all? You know, so I would say he's probably wearing something, because what little I know about him, he does wear hats when he's in public, you know, on TV and things like that. So that's probably where I would tend to go, that he'll wear a fedora or some kind of hat. All right, now let's see. Will the announcers refer to Russell Wilson being drafted in Major League Baseball, as he was drafted, in case you didn't know that? I'm saying they probably will, because they do a lot of background about the players during the Super Bowl, especially the big-time players. Obviously, Russell Wilson. They'll talk about Marshawn Lynch, you know, especially the big-time players. They're going to mention things like that might not be mentioned on a regular broadcast during the week. Here's one, definitely, I'm sure a lot of people are going to bet on. How many times will Peyton Manning say Omaha during the game? Now, I don't know if you know, Omaha Steaks, which is a famous steak place that delivers all over the country, probably even all over the world, they want to hook up with Peyton Manning and have him as an endorser because he mentions Omaha so many times during his games. Now, I know the last game, the championship, he mentioned them 41 times, and the over-under is 27.5. So take that as you will. Obviously, there's no guarantee that he's going to go over 27.5, and of course, he's not going to be thinking about how many times am I going to say Omaha during the game, but that's something you might want to think about. Let's see. On to Richard Sherman. Now, I'm going to be talking more about him tomorrow. Like I said, I'm going to have a few people with me. We're going to go more in depth about the game. I'm just throwing out some interesting facts and, any bets you might want to put down for the game. So the show won't be tremendously long today. It'll be longer tomorrow, more in depth, more topics, that kind of thing. So Richard Sherman, I've got a couple here about. Will he receive a taunting penalty during the game? Now, as you know, he got fined $7,875 for taunting Michael Crabtree after the final play of the NFC Championship game. I don't think he cares about that. That's the way he is. I mean, he's an excellent player. He's probably the best cornerback in the game, but he wants to let you know it, too. I think that's part of his game, maybe a little psychological game. He's a smart guy, so he tries to get in your head. As great as he is physically, if you can get a mental edge on somebody, that makes it even better in your situation. So I'd say there's a good chance if he makes an interception or, defends a pass or causes a fumble or, makes a big hit or something during the game in the right spot, a big spot in the game, I'd say there's a good chance he might say something, get in somebody's face, something like that, and try and win a psychological edge if he can. The other one is, will he get a pass interference penalty? Now, I think, again, it's just my humble opinion, I think that the referees are going to let them play unless you absolutely get mugged where it would be a crime if you weren't on a football field. I think they're going to let, the players play. So I think you're going to get away with a little more pushing, a little more holding, a little more grabbing, because the referees don't want to be noticed. Because that's when they do their best job. When they're not noticed, that's when they're doing the work the best. So I think they're going to let them play, and it's less likely that Sherman's going to get a pass interference. Let's see. Oh, they even have another interesting one. I don't know why anybody would care, with all due respect to President Obama, why anyone would bet on who he's picking to win the Super Bowl. I don't know. I don't know if that means you're kind of a degenerate gambler or not. I don't know. But there are odds on who the president will pick. So I personally wouldn't go that way, but, just throwing it out there, if you're inclined to look for things that are different than just the winner of the game or the point spread or the over-under or anything like that, I'm throwing a few out there for you. How about who the Super Bowl MVP will thank first? They might thank mom and dad, they might thank their coach, they might thank Jesus Christ, they might do something like that. They might thank teammates. Those are listed. So if that's somewhere you might want to go. The ratings for the Super Bowl, the official Nielsen ratings, 47.5 Nielsen rating. That is a monstrously big. I don't know how much you know about the Nielsen ratings. I know some, but a normal NFL game will probably get maybe 1/4 of what this Super Bowl will get. If you can get 47.5 rating, that is an unbelievable amount of people watching one event at the same time. Now, granted, the Super Bowl is the biggest event in America every year, but 47.5 Nielsen rating. Fox is doing the game this year. Boy, they would kill if that number is right. They would love to have that. Well, it does have something about the average amount of viewers. the number is 112 million. I think this game will definitely exceed that. With the matchups that are in this game, I think it'll, with Peyton Manning, the the last couple of weeks with Richard Sherman. Richard Sherman was sort of respectful, but sort of disrespectful to Peyton Manning, talking about how great Peyton Manning is, but that he throws a lot of ducks. Anybody that doesn't know, a duck is a pass thrown that's wobbling and not a pretty spiral. So Peyton Manning, kind of defended himself. It was in a joking way from what I saw, but he said, yeah, I throw a lot of ducks for touchdowns. So he was kind of defending himself, but not in a serious way. But I would definitely go over 112 million viewers for the Super Bowl. So I think it's going to be monstrous ratings for this setup. Well, it has something interesting here. Which region will have a higher local TV rating? So are more Broncos fans in the Denver area, going to be watching, or will more Seahawks fans in the Seattle area, be watching? They're both very, very passionate fans. So I wouldn't touch that one with somebody else's money, personally, because obviously the ratings will be huge in both cities, but even with somebody else's million, I wouldn't touch that one. They even have, now I don't even know who thinks of these things, but they even have what the Dow Jones market will do the day after the Super Bowl. I don't understand who would even think of that, or I don't know how the Super Bowl affects things like that. I don't know, but they even have something like that. Well, you have to lay extra money on, if you think the market's going to go up the next day, it'll cost you extra money on your dollar, actually $1.40 on your dollar if you think the market will go up the following day. And it's even money if the market goes down. Now, I have a retirement fund investment, so obviously I hope that the market goes up the day after. We don't want it to go down. That's not good. All right, so I'm going to wrap up. Got a couple of things to do before I wrap up to let you know about. First of all, I want to thank you very, very much for listening to my first ever Sportsocology show. I'll be back tomorrow, Super Bowl Sunday. Got to do a show for that day. Have some friends. I've got some crazy friends, so the show might get crazy. I'll try and keep it somewhat under control, but I can't promise that'll happen. I'm going to do a show every Saturday. Every Saturday I'm going to have a show, but there may be more during the week depending on what's happening in the sports world. I might throw in a show midweek or something like that, depending on what's happening. Things happen, breaking news, whatever. But every Saturday I'm going to be putting a show out there. So, again, thank you for listening to the Sportsocology show. Please follow me on Twitter and Facebook. Leave comments for me, please. Even, if you think there's something negative. If I see, and I'll read them all, but a comment that's negative, it may be like, oh, you know what? I never even thought of that. Those kind of things can make me better. Of course, positive is beautiful. Everybody loves to read nice things about them and hear nice things about themselves. But even if you have something you think I should be better at or whatever, please let me know. I may not have thought of it, not have realized it, whatever, but it will just make me better and more entertaining. So please let me know. And of course, if it's positive stuff, please don't forget to leave that. Be sure to subscribe to the Sportsocology show on YouTube. It's right there. It just says subscribe. So please do that. Follow me on Twitter and Facebook. And thank you very, very, very much for listening to my first show. And look for me tomorrow afternoon sometime for the Super Bowl show. And thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time, America, wherever you are.